point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 313th edition of Energy Week. Today is the 11th of April, 2019, and our articles are starting on the 4th, which is a week ago today. And in case anybody's wondering how we got from 311, which
I was just wondering
last week, to 313 today, the 312th was
a special.
Was a special,
Yeah.
which was the Brattleboro Energy Committee's working group on microgrids. We did a half-hour show on that. So we've done already up to today. We've done 312 shows, of which 2 were half-hour and the rest were hour.
Good.
How do you like that? Yeah. Okay. Every day I go to the internet and I go over news on energy and climate change for a blog that I run called geoharvey.com, Geoharvey. You can visit that. It has a calendar, and if you click on a date on the calendar, you see the articles that appeared on that date on the blog, which means most of them were from the day before that. The articles that Tom and I are talking about here come from that blog. And take it away, Tom.
Right about now, I usually say something like this.
There you go.
Some of these things are real interesting.
Some of them are amazing.
We could devote a whole show just for one of them sometimes.
More than one in some cases.
So I'll try and alert you if some of them are particularly compelling.
Yeah.
There always are a few.
There are always some.
Usually they come from CNN.
Yes, sometimes too many. The ones I like best come from Clean Technica, but that's okay.
We get more from Clean Technica than anything else.
Yeah, it's pretty. The stuff at Clean Technica is pretty dense. The one thing that I don't like about Clean Technica is that it focuses too heavily on transportation.
Does it really?
Yeah, it's a good thing though, because transportation is the biggest part of the problem now.
Well, the first thing's going to come up from Clean Technica.
Absolutely, it is, and it has to do with transportation. This is from the 4th of April, which is Thursday.
And we'll put up a picture there.
We have a picture.
We're going to bring the picture up while we're talking there.
Okay.
And that's the Tesla factory. And
That's
I guess
inside
that's a Tesla.
I would hope so. I don't think they make VWs in the Tesla factory.
Not yet, anyhow.
Not yet.
Tesla deliveries up 110% in Q1 2019.
Who'd have thought?
Versus Q1 2018. Well, yeah.
Well, you know, people are sitting around saying why Elon Musk is going to go broke and Tesla won't exist in a year, and they've been doing this for about 7 years.
Yeah.
Now Tesla is a
They're
force to
doing
contend
right.
with. Well, they're the biggest selling car company in at least 2 nations in Europe that I know of. And
I think we're going to be talking about
we will be. And, you know, they're the only car company in the United States that really, well, let me read what this says. Tesla delivered 110% more vehicles in the first quarter of 2019 versus the first quarter of 2018. The delivery total was approximately 63,000 for Q1 2019. In North America, the Model 3 was yet again the best-selling mid-size premium sedan, selling 60% more units than the runner-up.
You're doing something right.
I mean, you'd think that the people at Ford and GM and so forth would, in fact, they must be really looking at this and trying to figure out.
You better believe they are. There's a quick takeaway here.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize this. Tesla production currently occurs entirely from one factory in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And delivered to customers all around the world.
Yep.
So
Although
right now they're only running one factory, but they're building more.
Yep.
They're going to be building battery factories.
They're building a huge factory right now in China, and
they got something going on near Las Vegas.
Yes, they do. Part of the reason that they're building that factory in China might have to do with the trade problems that Donald Trump introduced into the equation.
Would he do something like that?
Would he? We're going to be talking about Donald Trump. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, we got another one here from Queen Technica as well.
Yes.
Renewable energy now accounts for a third of all global power capacity.
Renewable energy sources now account for about a third of all global power capacity, according to new figures published this week by the International Renewable Energy Agency, which revealed 171 gigawatts of new renewable capacity was installed in 2018. We should really explain this, because it's not going to be clear to anybody who is unaware of.
Well, this is capacity, right?
This is capacity.
Yeah, okay, explain.
And there is a thing called the capacity factor.
Uh-huh.
You know, the wind doesn't always blow, the sun doesn't always shine, the nuclear plant doesn't always run.
Yeah.
And so you have this thing called the capacity factor, which is
what you're capable of doing, but you aren't necessarily doing right then.
What percentage of that capacity are you actually
utilizing?
Yeah. And in the case of nuclear in the United States, it's about 92%. In the case of nuclear in the rest of the world, it's more like 84, 83%.
Okay.
And that has a lot of nuclear activists in the United States worried, because they think it is an indication that American nuclear plants are possibly working faster in refueling than they should be. In the case of wind power, if a wind farm could produce a gigawatt hour of electricity over the course of a year, you could expect that it would probably produce something like a third of that. In the case of some offshore wind farms, perhaps as
Maybe
much as a half.
More. Yep.
There is one offshore wind farm I've read about which has a capacity factor upwards of 50%. In the case of coal, it's like 60%. In the case of natural gas, it might be 60%. But peaking natural gas plants, some of them have capacity factors as low as 7%.
Well, they don't need them much.
That's right.
I mean, they only turn them on when they need them.
They only turn them on when they need them, and they're designed to come on to power really, really fast.
Really quick. Not quite as fast as solar, though.
No, and not quite as fast as batteries, and that's
batteries, definitely. That's key.
Batteries produce pretty good electricity. When
you flip a switch,
you
they're
flip
on.
a switch and they're on. So when they're talking about capacity here, they're talking they're not saying that a third of the power produced is from renewables. They're saying that the capacity
is a third of
the capacity is renewables. And in order to produce the capacity that we get from nuclear power, we'd have to have renewable power that would be possibly 3 times the capacity of the nuclear.
Mm-hmm.
But
quick takeaway here from the article: there's renewable energy growth in all regions across the globe, around the globe.
Yeah.
Total renewable capacity now is 2350 gigawatts, which accounts for a third of the globe's total installed capacity.
Yeah.
And of that capacity, solar energy dominates.
Of the renewable capacity.
Yeah.
Yes. And that is something which I think is probably going to continue to be the case. In fact, it'll probably become more the case because solar power is the cheapest.
Yeah.
Actually, it's
getting cheaper.
I think it may be the cheapest power source we've got today.
Right now, I think
far
you're right.
cheaper than
right.
Yeah.
Cheaper than coal, that's for sure.
Okie doke.
Well, talking about coal.
Yep.
Renewables smashed records in 2018, says a report, and truly trumped coal on cost. You wouldn't think that was some kind of a pun, would you?
Well, maybe it is, but Renew Economy, which is the source of this, is an Australian organization, and this is about Australia.
About Australia, right.
A new report called 2018 A Remarkable Year for Renewable Energy in Australia. Investment in large-scale projects doubled. That's doubled in 1 year.
And that's large-scale projects.
Yeah.
And in Australia, there's a lot of rooftop.
There's a lot of rooftop. And the cost of new wind and solar, with storage included, was officially declared cheaper than new coal power. And this is in a country whose government is pushing coal.
Well, they got a lot of coal. They want to sell it while it's still worth something.
They're worried about stranded assets.
the word for just what I just said. They want to sell it while it's still worth something.
Yeah, that's right. And they don't see how they can do that if they start pushing renewable energy. But changes are happening in Australia.
Well,
and, you know,
9 new wind farms were commissioned
yeah,
in Australia. Another 24 wind farms were under construction.
yeah.
So, you know, they're moving.
And how much coal is under construction? They're talking about the federal government of Australia, which, by the way, is now going to have elections in May, which means that it might disappear. It might be changed. The federal government is talking about putting, I don't know how much money, couple billion dollars, $1 billion, whatever, into building a new coal plant. And the idea of doing this is just, why in the world would you want to do that? Well, to employ people, because you believe that baseload power is necessary. And
well, you got a dispute going on in Australia anyhow,
yes,
between the federal government, which supports coal,
yeah,
and the regional governments, the states,
yeah,
which don't.
yeah, yeah, that's true. You're absolutely right. Okay, we're up to Friday, April 5th.
So quick?
So quick.
We got a picture here.
And we have a picture, and this article comes from the Des Moines Register.
Des Moines, huh?
Des Moines, in case you need to know.
And Des Moines is in Iowa. So that picture is in Iowa.
Yeah, that picture's in Iowa.
And
that's
let's bring up us here, and we can
River
talk about
City in the Music Man is in Iowa.
Is it really?
Yes.
Yeah. Donald Trump said wind turbines cause cancer.
Wow.
Chuck Grassley called that idiotic.
Yeah, well, Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley, who, by the
He's
way,
Republican.
is a Republican, a champion of wind energy, said President Donald Trump's comments that wind turbines cause cancer were, and I'm quoting, idiotic, end quote, in a call with reporters. I mean, he's making this really public. There is no evidence that wind turbines sounds cause cancer. And, you know, I want to comment here on the stuff that I do for my blog. I've been doing this blog since the 2nd of June, 2012. I did exactly the same work, largely the same work, for about a year before the blog opened, and I was sending it out in emails. And I put up now usually 15 articles every day, sometimes fewer. I say 10 to 15, but
Okay.
it's
Varies with what's out there.
Most days it's not less than 15. On 4 occasions, I have counted the number of titles I had to look at, the number of hits in Google searches and whatnot, to get one article. And it turns out that it's somewhere around a little bit less than 30.
Okay.
Okay, so that means I'm doing somewhere around 400 to 450 articles per day that I'm looking at, and I've been doing this for over 2,500 days.
No wonder you got gray hair.
Oh, it's terrible. I may actually have looked at over 1 million titles.
Wow.
And I would say that at the very least 800,000. And I have never seen any article coming up in any news organization that suggested that wind turbines could cause cancer. Never.
Well, he didn't. I don't think he exactly said that. He did, but he didn't. This is a quote.
Okay.
If you have a windmill anywhere near your house, congratulations, your house just went down 75% in value.
Yeah.
And they say the noise causes cancer.
They say.
Yeah.
Well, another thing that we
You
could
tell me that one, okay?
Yeah, right. Another thing that I should mention here is that there are certain articles that I always open. And I mean, I don't open articles that talk about the price of stock in renewable energy companies. Okay. And I don't open, articles about people being appointed to the chairman of the board of energy or whatever. I'm looking at the nuts and bolts stuff, and there are certain articles that I always open. And those articles are the ones that combine in the title something about wind turbines and human health, something about wind turbines and the health and well-being of animals of any kind, including birds.
we talk about that a lot because
lot.
it's coming up a lot.
Yep.
It's real.
And the third one is about wind turbines and property values. And I think I've seen possibly 11 articles from scientific, that are of scientific quality, as opposed to, I mean, what's called anecdotal evidence. Two guys, and I actually opened an article that said this. Two guys rented a cabin and got sick over a weekend, and the cabin was near a wind turbine. So
naturally,
naturally,
did it.
of course, we don't know what other ththings were going on there. Maybe the cabin was downwind from a diesel generator that was running, and they were breathing the fumes. I don't know.
Maybe they had some bad homebrew.
Maybe, but I've seen I think 10 or 11 different reports of scientific quality publications, articles, papers that talked about wind turbines and property values. One said that the property values that they looked at went down by a statistically insignificant amount. Now that means statistically insignificant means we don't know why this happened, but it may or may not have had anything to do with wind turbines. 3 of them said that the properties went up by amounts that were not statistically significant.
Well,
the rest said that it
we
didn't
talked
change.
about some guy up in Michigan that was actually taking people on tours of wind farms.
Yeah. And I have read about people who bought property because they could see the wind farm from the kitchen window.
Well, that's a little bit of a stretch.
But it's, they like the things.
Some people like them, some people don't.
It's true. Some people like them, some people don't. We should probably go on there. But the idea that Chuck Grassley, a Republican senator, would say that something Donald Trump said was idiotic.
Well, I don't know what to say about that.
Well, there's more to that story, and we will be talking about it next week.
Well, Grassley has been a supporter of renewables.
He has been, and specifically
in Iowa,
wind power.
Renewables are important because wind energy is currently generating 30% of what they use in that state.
Yes.
And there's a lot of wind there.
There's a lot of wind there. And they can export that and make money. Okay, our next item is from Clean Technica
again.
Yep.
Global wind turbine order capacity increased 31% in 2018. Global wind turbine orders.
Right. According to Wood Mackenzie, global wind turbine orders increased by 31% in 2018, thanks in part to a 20% fourth quarter increase, which saw 18 gigawatts of new capacity added. The U.S. bucked the trend, however, seeing a decline in capacity orders.
Well, one of the things that's happening is they're moving toward these bigger turbines.
Yes.
And each time we talk about turbines,
they
get a little bit bigger than they were last time.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Last week, what did we talk about? 12
gigawatts.
Well,
offshore
I can't even conceive
turbine.
of that thing. One turbine?
12
gigawatts?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think one turbine of that size might be enough to supply
12 megawatts, not 12 gigawatts.
Yes, you're right. One
well,
turbine.
Only 1,000.
Well, you had 1/10%. That's on the same page. Okay, should we escape that and move on?
Yeah, let's get out of here before we say something we regret.
Our next item is from Clean Technica also.
Swiss startup Innolith claims 1,000 watt-hours per kilogram battery breakthrough. It's hard to wrap around that, but that's way higher than normal batteries.
We've got it here. The Swiss startup Innolith, which is probably actually pronounced Innolit, but I don't know, says it may be Innolit. I don't know how lithium is pronounced in German, and it might not even be German. Says it developed a lithium-ion battery with an energy density of 1,000 watt-hours per kilogram. This is 4 times as much as the 250 watt-hours per kilogram rating of the latest battery from Tesla. It already has one of the batteries installed to back up the grid in Hagerstown, Maryland.
Well, that's sort of a trial, but it's still there.
That's a big battery they've got in Maryland. I mean, this is not somebody tinkering in his kitchen and coming up with something. They know what they're doing here.
Well, apparently what they've done is they replaced the solvent in the batteries.
Yeah.
They found something new.
Yeah.
And it's working better.
Yeah.
It's more stable and it's less flammable.
But think about this, Tom. If you've got a Tesla vehicle and you've got a battery in there and you could replace that battery with another battery of the same weight, you'd be multiplying the range by 4.
That's true.
You'd be able to...
These big batteries would allow an electric car to travel 600 miles on a charge.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that's holding back electric cars.
Yeah. Okay, we are up to Saturday, April 6th, and we have an item from Renews, and we have a
We got
picture,
another
too.
picture.
This is a fascinating
This is
picture.
a crazy picture.
You know, I don't know that I'd want to go on an excursion on that thing.
What happened to the rest of that ship? Looks like they cut it in half.
Well, you know, the thing is, what happens if that thing gets into a storm?
Well, I don't think they crossed the ocean with that thing. They're bringing the substation from the shore to the...
And they go out in good weather and
Yeah. That's
Okay.
a very interesting looking vehicle.
Yeah. This is from Renews.
Let's look at that thing really, really close.
It's like a flatbed
It looks like
truck.
they cut off the back of the ship and built a platform.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they did. They cut the bottom,
But
the whole back of the ship off.
Just think about this, though. If you look at the bridge of that ship, and then you look at what's below it, you can see that there's 5 stories in the superstructure below the bridge.
Easily.
And then that's not even half the height of the bridge off the water. So that thing has got to be 12 stories up. And the thing that it's carrying really goes, this is like a ship that's 18 stories tall, and it's, I mean, including the cargo, and it reminds me of a picture that I saw once of an elephant riding a donkey. It was a cartoon.
I hope so. Yeah, I'm looking at that, and it looks like that's exactly what they did. They cut off all of the cargo space in that ship.
Well, I think the ship was built for that.
It might.
That's why the bridge is forward like that. I've never seen a ship with a bridge that far forward before. Okay.
I wouldn't argue that.
We should. What's the title, Tom?
Let's.
I can read the title if you want.
No, I got it.
Okay.
Tenet or Tenet plots 2 gigawatt substation revolution.
Okay, this is why it's so big, because it's gonna be a substation for 2 gigawatts. Tenet, the Dutch transmission system operator, will deploy cables and converter stations with a 2 gigawatt capacity to carry electricity ashore from offshore wind farms. This is huge. That thing is the equivalent of 2 large nuclear power reactors and the stuff around them.
And what that does is just collect the power from all of the turbines and pumps it to shore via, according to the article, 2 cables.
Yeah. Planned for the post-2024 period, 2 gigawatt DC connectors will be used for the, and I don't know how to pronounce this, Imudsen Ver, or Ijmudsen. It's IJMUID.
We got to get a Dutchman in here to help us.
Yeah. You can find these things out online these days. Wind energy area, Tenet said. Okay. Fascinating picture. But, you know, the marine stuff that's used for offshore wind farms is there's a lot of it. Those jack-up ships are so interesting looking.
Well, from the article, this whole area is developing a lot of power.
Yeah.
The total to be linked is nearly 10 gigawatts.
Yeah.
Because this is only one.
That's
They're going to
just
have
one of
several
them.
these.
I think they built that ship to carry those things.
It really kind of looks that way. It really kind of looks that way.
Okay, should we go on?
Yeah.
We have an item from CNN.
Amazing.
Amazing. This is
EU
not nice.
accuses German car makers of colluding to delay clean air technology. They wouldn't do a thing like that.
No, never. The EU has accused German car makers of collusion. The European Commission said Volkswagen, BMW, and Daimler broke antitrust laws by acting together to delay the introduction of 2 emissions cleaning systems between 2006 and 2014. And you know what? if they levy the full amount of the fines of these things against these car makers,
It's going to cost them a lot of money.
do you have the figure?
I thought I did, but I don't.
My recollection was that it was $56 billion.
I
might be
thought I
wrong.
had that, but I don't.
I might be wrong about that. I don't have it in front of me.
Well, this is CNN, and they don't particularly have a video this time, but there's a couple of interesting hyperlinks on it.
Yes.
One of them says self-driving cars are now on the streets of Hamburg.
Yes.
They're operating.
Yes.
They're real. And the other one says, and we've talked about this one, Volkswagen is betting its future on electric cars.
Yes.
Well, I think they have to.
Yep. Okay, we've got an item from USA Today.
And we've got a picture.
And we have a
that's
picture.
A lovely picture.
Isn't that a lovely picture? Yeah, it looks like it could have come from the National Geographic. It's so
And
beautiful.
what it says is
Man, look at all that
CO2
mess.
at its highest level in 3 million years.
Scientists announced in a report that CO2, the gas that causes the most global warming, is present in our atmosphere at the highest level in 3 million years. And by the way, if you follow what they did in order to figure that out,
Yeah.
it is convincing that that is the case. It looks like, this was not a couple of guys sitting in a room smoking cigars and saying,
They did
I
some
think
serious
it's
research.
Yeah, this is serious research. At that time, sea levels were as much as 65 feet higher than they are now. Greenland was mostly green, and Antarctica had trees. Now, there's one thing about this that is a little bit scary, and that is it appears that the level of CO2 in the atmosphere is in fact related to the amount of ice we've got. And what that means is that the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere is related to the amount of ice we've got on the planet.
Okay.
So
I didn't know that.
if that is the case, then we can expect that the CO2 that is currently in the atmosphere could add 60 or 65 feet to the height of the oceans over time, which would mean that every coastal city in the world would be underwater. And, if you look at cities, the big cities are mostly coastal.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, you don't
At least
think
in
of
the United
London
States.
as being coastal, but by
It's on
golly,
the Thames.
the Thames, they have
Shallow river.
they have built big barriers because of flooding
Yeah.
that developed recently. I wonder why.
Whoa.
Okay,
Let's move on.
our next item is from Forbes, and this is a little bit more interesting.
This is an interesting article. Get ready. This is it.
Yeah.
Get ready for 1.5 cent renewable electricity, which could unleash a hydrogen economy.
Former Energy Secretary Stephen Chu told a room full of scientists in Chicago they should think now about what they could do with renewable energy that costs 1.5 cents per kilowatt hour. And he suggested that those thoughts should include hydrogen.
Well, this guy Chu, he's no, what would you say, one night stand.
No,
This guy's
this
got
is
he
a
won a
bright
Nobel
guy.
Prize in physics.
And incidentally, my ex-wife's brother, who, when he was in 4th grade, came home with a note that said, "This boy may be mildly retarded. Maybe we should think about putting him in special ed."
Yeah.
Okay? He co-authored that Nobel Prize-winning report.
Did he really?
Yeah,
I'll be
well,
darned.
The next teacher said, "I don't think he's mildly retarded. I think he's very bored."
Good call.
Yeah.
Well, what Chu says is when electricity falls below 4 cents per kilowatt hour, it can produce hydrogen that competes with hydrogen from other sources.
Yeah.
Okay, so this opens up a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, especially considering that most renewable energy is below 4 cents per kilowatt hour already.
Yeah.
And this, we could do an entire show about the implications of that.
We could.
But we should
could.
move on, I think.
We got another interesting picture.
We do, and this
coming
is
up here.
delightful. We were up to Sunday, April 7th, and this is a picture of a seaplane belonging to a small aviation company called Harbour Air, Harbour, because it's
in Canada.
not United States, it's Canada, but they're based on Vancouver.
Well, what's going on there in the Vancouver area? A lot of people live on islands,
Yeah,
and there's no roads to those islands.
yeah.
Well, you can row a boat, but But this is one way of getting
A
around.
lot of people live inland in places where you can't get to easily by car too, but you
That's
can
also true.
because they're on rivers that you can land a seaplane in. What's the title of this, Tom?
Harbour Air is switching over to 100% electric seaplanes.
This is from Clean Technica again.
That's
It is.
significant.
Harbour Air, based in Vancouver, will be the first seafaring airline to convert its complete fleet to aircraft to be aircraft to be powered by electricity. Its 41 aircraft will be converted to reach a longer life cycle with highly improved efficiency and lower maintenance costs. In other words, they would be doing this to save money.
This is a significant airline. They fly 500,000 passengers annually.
Yeah,
They go from Seattle to Vancouver and other places on the coast.
yeah.
And like I said, a lot of people live on islands. And you said a lot of people live inland, but they're inaccessible.
Yeah.
And the way to get around is by plane.
By plane.
And by the way, this picture, I'm going to bring it up again.
Yeah.
This is the smallest plane they have.
Yes.
Most of them are like 20 passenger planes.
I've actually flown in a seaplane that was about that size.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The pilot made it fly upside down. And the engine stalled because, the fuel was being fed to the engine by gravity.
Oh, man. Oh, boy.
He said, "Would you like an exciting trip?" Or oh, dear.
Well, the quick takeaway here, the
Yeah.
cost is the same as a new turbine engine,
Yeah.
but maintenance is much lower.
Much.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that's what's going on.
And what we're
really
talking about is the price of batteries and the capacity in terms of energy per kilogram. What we were talking about just a few minutes ago, becoming greater, so these planes can fly farther on the same amount of weight.
Planes all fly relatively short routes.
Yeah, these guys
and,
do.
And these batteries will give them an hour.
Yeah.
And most of the routes take no more than half an hour.
Yeah, and an
And they
hour.
must be pretty small batteries batteries weigh something, you know.
Yeah, they do, but lithium-ion batteries are not
Much
terribly
lighter
heavy.
than
Yeah.
car batteries. Yep.
Okay, our next item is from Truth Out.
Yeah, we got a good one coming up here.
Yep.
I'm gonna put. Let's see. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm gonna put us.
There you
both
go.
up here. Union locals build support for the Green New Deal's just transition.
National leadership among some labor unions has shown an early reluctance to support the Green New Deal. However, leaders at the local level are working to build support for the plan among their membership in hopes of pushing their unions in that direction. This is really
It's about
interesting.
jobs, basically.
It's about jobs. The local, I have one of the people who has is a follower of my blog, is a woman who is a coal union organizer in New Mexico.
Oh, union organizer.
Union organizer.
Oh boy, so they're not looking at job
And
security.
she
are they?
has been trying to get the unions in the coal fields in New Mexico to start thinking about something to do other than depend on coal. And she's been getting a lot of flack from them for years.
Huh. I don't think she needs a new crystal ball.
No. Well, now the Navajo generating station is almost certainly folding,
Yeah.
and the Navajo nation is going to renewables. Anyway,
Well, one of the problems here is renewable energy jobs generally don't pay as much as coal mining jobs.
yeah, they don't kill you as fast either.
And they don't get you as fast. Yeah. The labor movement, unless it changes drastically and quickly, is going to alienate an entire generation of young people who will be going to work someday.
Yeah.
That's explaining the opposition of the
Yeah.
organized labor.
We had a report of a big coal company that went bankrupt recently. It was
Yeah,
Cloud
we did. One
Energy.
of the biggest ones.
one of the biggest ones, and I was really
The owner is a
saddened.
big activist.
Yeah. I was really saddened to see that some of the people who are living on medical benefits because they've got black lung
Yeah,
are losing those benefits
Yeah.
because the company's going broke.
yeah.
I don't know. When I was a little kid, I thought coal mining was probably the worst job a person could have. Even though they pay well, I'm unconvinced that it's any different from that. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, we got a picture coming
We're
up
up to
here.
Monday, April 8th. We have a picture of
got
a
a picture here of
hydrogen-powered bus. We're going to have another one of those later on in the thing. Truly impressive picture, the next one. But this is a fuel cell bus, and this article appeared in The Guardian.
Yeah, the perfect storm. Hydrogen gains ground on liquefied natural gas as an alternative fuel.
In March, the Queensland University of Technology made history when it achieved the first export of a small quantity of clean green hydrogen produced in Australia from renewable energy to Japanese energy giant JXTG, proving that it was in fact possible to do this.
Yeah. From the article, the greatest demand for hydrogen is likely to come from its use as a fuel for hydrogen-powered electric cars, which,
Yeah.
by the way, are operating in California right
Yep.
now. Okay, long-haul heavy transport, okay, and public transport buses, as you see in this picture.
In
I'll
this
bring
picture,
it back up again.
yeah.
So, hydrogen is increasingly being seen as an alternative to liquefied natural gas
Yeah.
and other fossil fuels.
Yep.
And I think we're going to be seeing more of that.
I find it interesting to see that there's exhaust coming out of that bus.
Is there?
Yeah. Look at the upper right of the picture, and you can see the exhaust
You
coming
can
out.
see a little, little smoke coming out of
Well,
there.
it's not smoke, Tom. It's
It's
steam.
Smoke, smoke, steam, steam, same.
No, it's not the same. Okay. Our next item is from Callanish Energy.
Well, a quick takeaway from there.
Oh, yes.
Technology to produce, store, and transport hydrogen is improving rapidly.
Rapidly.
We're going to be seeing more and more
Yeah,
of
this
the
is
hydrogen.
something that's, there's so many technologies here, and they're all improving rapidly. Batteries, solar, wind, you name it.
Well,
Okay.
and we've said this on the show before, the model of electricity production and transmission in this country is changing, and it's changing fast.
Fast. Okay, Callanish Energy. What do you got for a title?
Hawaiian Electric to expand renewable energy by 2022.
That's not quite 3 years from now. Hawaiian Electric Companies, and this is a conglomeration, and not, I don't mean that technically, of electric companies that were formed on the individual islands. The Hawaiian Electric Companies are setting a 2022 target to develop more renewable energy. Callanish Energy reports the company wants to develop 73 megawatts of solar and 1,200 megawatt hours of storage on the island of Oahu. It also wants smaller amounts of solar and storage on the islands of Maui and Hawaii. Now, the thing that's interesting to me about this is 73 megawatts of solar is a lot, but 1,200 megawatt hours of storage is 12 times the biggest battery in the world today.
I didn't even think about that, but
It's
yeah, sure it
huge.
is, right.
Huge.
There's a lot about storage.
This is a lot
But
of
it's going to be
storage.
distributed on several islands, so it's localized
No, that's
storage.
that's just on Oahu.
That's
There's
just a
much smaller
It
amounts
is.
of
That's just what it says. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
You're right.
And you know, I'm sitting there thinking, they're going to do, this is going to be they're not storing power from the 73 megawatts of solar for this alone. They're storing power from everything they can
From
store.
everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, they don't have any oil, so everything that they use to generate power from fossil fuels is
Yep.
something you got to bring to the
and
island.
it's expensive as all get out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah,
Got
this
an
is an
interesting
interesting
picture.
one. We got another picture coming up here.
We've heard about Medellin, which is the
Yeah,
drug
we've
capital of
heard.
South America. This is an article from Clean Technica.
Well, that's a couple of cable cars.
Yep.
And what it's saying here, this is a very interesting article, by the way.
Yes, it
In
is.
Medellin, Metro Cable connects people in more ways than one.
In 2004, Metro de Medellin opened the world's first aerial tram system, Metro Cable, connecting the slums of the Colombian city's hillsides to its downtown center and the rest of its transit network. The mobility they provide encourages investment in poor neighborhoods. And what's happening here, Tom, is people from these slums are able to get to work in the middle of the city in half an hour where it would have taken them 2 hours before.
Yeah. Yep.
But also, people who have money to invest are investing
investing.
money in the slums
Yeah.
because you know it's you'd think that, well, there it is. You have that picture,
The
and
picture's
it's
up, isn't it?
yeah, it is, and it's doing good for everybody.
Well, if you take a look at those things, you say, ho hum. I mean, we
Yeah.
got one of those in Mount Snow, right?
Yeah,
there.
right.
But this isn't just one. This is a whole network of these things
Yeah.
connecting to the rapid transit network that they've already got.
Yes.
So this is not one or two cable cars. This is, I think they're talking about 7.
Okay.
And they're bringing people from, as you said, the hills, the slums in the hills to the
Yep.
downtown where they got jobs and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it's a rather new concept.
Yeah.
I guess it's the first time they've ever used these tramways in a system.
Yep. Okay, we're up to Tuesday, April 9th, and we've got an item here from CNN.
Particulate pollution in the air we breathe kills hundreds of thousands a year.
Air pollution is deadly. A study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences links exposure to it to more than 107,000 premature deaths in the United States in 2011. Energy consumption causes 57% of the pollution-related deaths. It isn't just killing us, it costs the country $866 billion. That's just in 1 year.
Well, this is one of those CNN sourced
Yeah.
items, and it's got a video in it.
Yes?
Video is about a minute, worth
Yep.
watching.
Yep.
How deadly is air pollution?
Yeah.
And that's basically what this article's about. And just in case you don't understand what they're talking about particulate matter. That's the mix of solid and liquid droplets floating in the air, dirt, dust, soot, or smoke. It comes from coal and from natural gas-fired plants, cars, agriculture, unpaved roads, construction sites, and wildfires. It's coming from a lot of sources.
A lot of sources.
It can get stuck in your lungs or get into your bloodstream. Long-term exposure can cause cancer, stroke, and heart attack, not wind turbines. The number of deaths are more than traffic accidents and homicides combined,
Put together.
equal
And
to about 2 large plane crashes every day.
people think that
This
we've
is
got
significant.
Yes. People think that we have got clean air in Vermont, and we do compared to New York City.
Relatively.
But most of our air is not as clean as the air in places like Montana in a lot of places. And
Well, we're getting
we have people
air
dying.
from Ohio
Yeah.
blowing over Vermont.
We have air from Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, New York, Pennsylvania. And the number of people who die from this every year, according to estimates that I've seen from an earlier study, which had a lower number here, was 300 people in Vermont every year, which means another person every day. And if you think about that as every year, 300 people, which is, 1/2000th of the population, almost all of us know people who are dying of
emphysema and stuff like
cancer, whatever, that is caused by these. Okay, we should
that. Well,
probably
we got a
go
very
on.
related article here, and there's an image, so I'm going to bring the image up. If I can, I think I can.
That image?
Well, this is a picture of coastal devastation.
Yes.
And that's what the article says. From ruined bridges to dirty air, EPA scientists price out the cost of climate change.
By the end of the century, the manifold sequences of unchecked climate change will cost the U.S. hundreds of billions of dollars every year. According to a study by EPA scientists, they said no part of the country will be untouched. I wonder if their boss knows about this. This is, by the way, from Virgin Islands Daily News. And
Yeah, it's not about the Virgin Islands. That's
no,
California.
that's
Bring it up again.
Capistrano. You've heard about the swallows returning to
Yeah,
And
yeah.
speaking of which, I saw a very brightly colored male robin today.
Good. Good. I
Spring
haven't
is
seen one
here.
yet. So they're
I
coming.
saw a female robin about almost a week ago, but this was a male, very bright red breast.
Well, before I get rid of it, that's Capistrano Beach, and that is damage to the boardwalk from ocean
Which looks
waves.
like it's actually undermined more than the boardwalk.
It kind of looks that way, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, our next item is from Yale Climate Connections.
Well, did we read that? Did we read the? Yeah, we did. I just didn't read my notes.
Do you want to say more about that?
Just one quick takeaway.
Okay.
When asked about the conclusions these people came, in November 2018, Trump told reporters, "I don't believe it."
Yeah, well, what can you say? Okay. Our next item is from Yale Climate Connections.
It certainly is. Climate change poses security risks, according to decades of intelligence reports.
A series of authoritative government and non-governmental analysis for over 3 decades lays a strong foundation for concern over climate change implications of national security. They come from the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, and a bunch of others. And you know, it disturbs me because we've said this, I think probably every year on this show. We've noted that somebody from the Pentagon or whatnot was testifying before a hostile Congress that climate change was posing security problems.
Absolutely.
I remember there was a big article that appeared in Rolling Stone magazine that we talked about.
These are in-depth articles.
And
this isn't somebody's term paper.
But these people who are posing as patriotic conservative Americans who are in Congress are just saying, I don't want to hear that. That disagrees with the money I'm getting from my contributors.
Well, basically, that's what's happening.
That's what's happening.
Well, the White House is considering an executive order to establish a presidential committee that would contest these findings.
Yes, of course. How do you think that they can find a few people out there who will contest? MSNBC.
Yeah.
After President Obama said 97% of scientists agreed that climate change was real and human-caused, dangerous, MSNBC wanted to find out whether that 97% was correct. Mm-hmm. So they did a survey that covered 70,000, almost 70,000. It was shy of 70,000.
They skipped a few.
They were going for everything they could find. And all of them were either scientists who were meteorologists or climate scientists who had published over whatever the period was they were looking at. And what they found, looking not just at whether they supported these ideas, but what about the people who said, no, it's not real? And they were able, out of the 70,000, almost 70,000, to find 4 who said this is not happening. Now, those 4 might be hired to be on a committee.
Yeah.
All right, and the committee would have 4 people on it. If it had 5 people altogether, you'd have one person who was odd man out. And by the way, we have an interesting thing for next week about the FERC chairman, Jay Chatterjee, is that his name? Who said he used to work for Senator Mitch McConnell, and he was appointed by Donald Trump, and he's the chairman of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and he said, climate change is a serious problem and we have to do something about it. Not his words. But nevertheless, if Donald Trump wants to find 4 people or 5 people for a committee, he can do it. But it doesn't prove a thing.
Doesn't prove much at all.
And my take, by the way, on that 4 people, I would probably get more than 4 positive responses, because they were asking, do you say that climate change isn't happening? I would expect more than 4 positive responses. If I went to 70,000 physicists and asked, is it true that you believe you are the reincarnation of Isaac Newton?
Maybe they are.
Who knows? Okay, we are up to Wednesday, April 10th.
We're running ahead here.
A little bit ahead, yeah. We only had 9 pictures today, so we usually have 10 or 11, so we stop and talk about them. Okay,
the next
and we have an item.
We got a picture, but it's the next one.
Yeah, we have an item from CNN.
CNN again.
Yeah.
There's trouble in OPEC, and oil prices are up 50%.
You know, I had an interesting...
This is current.
Yeah, I had an interesting thought about this. Okay, I'm going to read the thing here.
And then you can talk about your thought.
Yeah, Venezuela is in chaos. Iran is dealing with U.S. sanctions. There is increased violence in Libya. Trouble in these OPEC nations helped send U.S. oil prices back above the $64 a barrel mark. Gasoline prices are creeping higher just as the U.S. economy grapples with a slowdown. And you know
That's
what?
not good news.
These are all things that you look at them. Venezuela's in chaos. Why? Well, part of it has to do with the federal government's attitude toward Venezuela.
Well, we don't want a socialist nation in South America.
Iran is dealing with U.S. sanctions. Why? Well, you can trace that to the federal government. There is increased violence in Libya. Why is that? Is there any part of that that might be traceable to somebody in
US
Washington,
interference?
D.C.? And who benefits from this?
Good question.
The price of
question.
oil is going up in the United States.
Well, it's been down for quite a while.
It has been, and these oil companies are some of the biggest contributors to Donald Trump's presidential campaign and to the pseudo-conservatives who are in Washington, D.C. Now, I don't, when somebody looks at up in the air and says chemtrails, I say, no. I know about chemtrails, believe me. Those aren't chemtrails, those are contrails. You will not see chemtrails because the amount of material they put out is so small it's invisible, and they don't do it in blue skies, they do it in clouds. Nevertheless, and I don't believe in conspiracy theories, but if you want to make a conspiracy theory about this one, please do it.
Well, if you look at history,
Yeah,
and you eliminate the natural disasters,
yeah.
almost everything left is some kind of conspiracy.
Even the natural disasters can be a conspiracy.
They can be can be.
The Fukushima Daiichi,
Yeah,
those meltdowns, why did they happen? It's a natural disaster. Why did they happen because of a natural disaster? That was because of human error.
Yeah.
And it was willful negligence, in my opinion. Somebody walked into a room and said, how tall do these seawalls have to be? And somebody said, well, how much money do we have to spend on them?
Yeah.
So they went with seawalls that were 5.7 meters that got topped by a 14.7 meter wave.
That works every time.
On a coast where they had a history of
Tidal waves.
tsunamis that were in excess of 25 meters.
Wow. Well, this is from CNN, and there's a 2.5-minute video on it that's worth looking at.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, the article talks about these three countries specifically.
Yeah.
But Saudi Arabia has slashed production in a bid to engineer higher prices and also to balance its budget. And despite record-shattering U.S. production, U.S. oil prices have spiked 50%. So stock up on gas if you can.
Yeah. Our next item is from Clean Technica, and this guy has a picture
let's see. We're running ahead anyhow. Venezuela has been hit by Trump's sanctions. We know that.
Yeah.
And the U.S. imported 0 barrels of crude in the final 3 weeks of March.
First time in years.
And OPEC's production cuts have successfully lifted oil prices.
Yep.
So something's going on, folks.
Okay, our next
Yeah, we've got
item
a
is from
picture coming up here.
Clean Technica, and we have a rather cool picture
This
here.
is a very, very interesting picture.
Look at that bus.
That is what's called a BYD, the name of a company, K12A. And if it looks like a railroad train, it almost is.
Yeah. What do you have for title, Tom?
I do have a title.
You
I
do?
Let's see what it says. BYD continues to innovate, launches the world's longest electric bus.
New energy company BYD, you'll notice this is a new company, well, it's less than 20 years old, has introduced the world's longest electric bus. The new BYD K12A is a 27 meter, which means 89 foot. It's an 89-foot long beast of an electric bus. It features 2 independent articulating joints that connect 3 separate segments.
It's close to becoming a train, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It has room for 250 riders. And you know what? Some of them are, a lot of them, I think probably the majority of them are going to be standing up if you put 250 people into that bus.
I would expect.
But even so, that
We're going to bring the bus up again.
2 of those buses would overflow a 747.
Well, the buses are designed for urban operation.
Yeah.
Okay? They only have a maximum speed of 40 miles an hour. They can go from 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive. They've got DC and AC charging ports. And this is interesting. BYD has delivered more than 50,000 fully electric buses around the world. 16,000 of them in their home city of Shenzhen. How many have they delivered in the United States, George? And I know you know this number.
No, I don't know the number. You're going to have to tell me.
I don't know it, no.
They are building a factory in the United States.
Shenzhen is.
BYD.
BYD is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shenzhen's the town.
The electric buses in the United States, the last time I looked, which admittedly was quite a few months ago, but it was not more than a year ago, the United States was producing fewer than 1,000 electric buses per year.
Okay.
China was producing, and this includes BYD,
50,000.
100,000 a year.
They're up to 100 now.
Yeah. And
BYD is doing 50.
BYD is
but
doing
the whole
50.
country's doing 100.
BYD, I think, is the largest electric bus manufacturer in the world, and it was founded by a guy who you don't hear about. I don't even remember his name, but he's a lot like Elon Musk. He started a company, which BYD is an acronym for Build Your Dream.
Build Your Dreams, yeah.
Interesting that a Chinese company has a name that is an English acronym. And he started this thing as a battery company. And he has succeeded in making it into one of the world's biggest road transportation vehicle companies. I think they're way ahead of Tesla, certainly way ahead in terms of buses, way ahead in terms of trucks and other equipment, heavy equipment.
So they're building big stuff.
They're building big stuff, but they're also building a lot of cars. And even though Tesla is building a lot of cars itself, BYD may be building more cars than Tesla.
We don't hear much about Chinese car manufacturing.
They don't export them to the United States.
There's a lot of Chinese, and there's a lot of cars.
Yeah, and they're selling a lot of electric cars in China, and they're exporting these things to all over the world. And this is the bus manufacturing is a $50 billion a year industry that the United States doesn't even have its toe in the water. You know,
we don't make buses, huh?
Well, we make about 1,000 a year, as I said. We've got a really good company called Proterra, and I forget what the second one is, but it's just, yeah. We've only got 2 minutes to go. We've got to hit this.
We've got only one item left.
Yeah.
New York offers $30 million for a flexible power grid.
This is from Energy Live News. New York announced funding up to $30 million for projects that can improve resiliency and flexibility in the electric grid. Governor Andrew M. Cuomo aims to generate 70% of renewable energy by 2030 and have a carbon-free power grid by 2040.
Well, one of the things they're trying to do is enable the integration of more clean energy resources into the current grid.
Right, right. And New York is out ahead of a lot of other states doing this.
Cuomo's got his own Green New Deal.
Yes, that's an important part of this whole thing. And
absolutely. He
will not be the only governor who has his own Green New Deal. That Green New Deal thing is not going away just because Mitch McConnell forced
well, it sounds like it's an idea whose time has come.
Yeah.
And it's integrated. It's
I will
more
tell
than
you
just
something.
energy.
This is a prophecy.
A what?
Prophecy.
Uh-huh.
Alexandria.
Wait, no crystal ball?
No crystal ball. You don't even need a crystal ball for this one. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will outlast Mitch McConnell.
I think so.
It's possible that I'm wrong, but I think it will happen.
Well, she's only 29.
She's 29.
Got the chance of being around a long time.
She does indeed.
And she could be a very important person in history.
She could be. Okay,
Smart woman, and she's got a big mouth.
Put us both up, Tom. Time to wave goodbye.
Do that.
Bye, everybody.
Adios.
Come back next time.
Adios, amigos.
And have a good week.